Hey guys, thank you for checking out this video. I wanted to do a quick tour of my 2002 Chevrolet Silverado, kind of give you my impressions, maybe kind of a review, but also show you, you know, if you're considering buying this truck, maybe you're looking at one used. I wanted to show you my setup, what I've thought about it, and hopefully it's something that that is of interest to you. So first and foremost, let's get started. This is a 2002 Chevrolet Silverado. It's got the 5.3 V8, which is roughly 285 horsepower, 325 pound-feet of torque. Keep in mind that engines nowadays, the torque and horsepower are really on the low end, especially on the torque. You're getting at lower RPMs like the EcoBoost and engines like that. Whereas this particular engine, and in those times, the RPMs needed to be a little bit higher. Like this one, you know, I think it's in the 3,000 or 4,000 range before you get that max torque, which means you're going to be revving it up pretty high to get that power. So just something to keep in mind. But again, it was typical of this particular age. This one has a 342 rear end. Let me tell you, that is it's a good all around. It's a good all around rear end. There are pros and cons. The pros of it is that it gets good gas mileage all the way around. In the city, it does really well, but it really shines when you get on the highway. You get on the highway empty, and your engine is just barely above idling, and you're doing really good, good speed and good gas mileage. Now, you add something like this, which is my RV. And that's where the 342, I don't want to say struggles, but you definitely notice it work a lot harder. When you're in town, it's going to take a lot more work from the engine and transmission to get it moving. Once you're on the highway, it does great. But to get it, you know, moving from stop and go traffic, you notice it work more. I do have a Toyota Tundra, 2018 Toyota Tundra, which I'll be doing a video review on that one, first impressions and so on pretty soon. That one's got a 410 rear end. Now keep in mind that when you tow something with that, when you hook up a trailer to it, it really doesn't matter. It just keeps on going along. It's almost not very noticeable because that rear end is so big. It's a 430 actually. So again, that's just something. It had a 342. I believe they made these with the 373s as well, usually found on those 4x4s. Again, a little bit better for towing, but not maybe your gas mileage. So great on gas. I really like the combo. Now remember, this is a 4-speed. They're making 10 speeds right now, and this thing's still a 4-speed, so keep that in mind. I'll pop the engine here in just a second and show you the engine. This particular one came with a ranch hand grill guard. I really liked it. It actually has saved me a time or two, just with little dings, you know, with brush and so on. Recently, I did have an accident, and this guy pulled out in front of me, and the ranch hand took the hit on the trailer ball of the 350 that I hit. So I ended up replacing the ranch hand, but it didn't do as much damage to the interior or to the engine bay and so on. So one of the things that I did was I upgraded the mirrors. Now that's because I've been towing this RV, so you really need it. However, this is not the stock mirrors. These are the heavy duty mirrors. I am a big fan of them. They work great. They're fairly inexpensive, and they're really easy to put on and put off. This, you just manually extend it. Keep in mind that when you're towing this thing is actually wider than your vehicle. So these really helped out. They extend. They've got some big mirrors here that you can use, and then of course this bottom one that moves, so you can check it out. But what I like about it is the fact that they're really easy to take on and off. You just pop this off. There's 3 bolts here. You take them off, slide that out, put the new one in, and it's so easy. So consider getting some of those if you're going to be doing some towing. Ever since I've bought it, for the most part, I've tried to go with the best tires that I could. I've really enjoyed the Michelins. These are the LTX MS. Now they're naming them Defender. They're relatively new. but they last a long time. They do really well. I also did a little bit of a upgrade to the shocks, or I'm sorry, the springs. In this case, I have the Hellwig helper springs, and what they do is I specifically got them because when I got the RV, it tended to, even with the weight distribution bar, the front end was a little light. When I was going down the highway, the front end, I kid you not, looked like this. When you hit a bump, you know, and the front end would start to float. And I didn't have as much control over it, and I could feel it. And once I installed those, it really planted that back up, and now I gained my control back. Let me show you something that I've done. I really like the fact that this has a really big bed. The reason that's really important is because when you add bikes, you know, a raft or all that, you know, coolers and so on, it really helps to have all this space. Unfortunately, I went to a Crew Max Tundra, and the negative is that the bed is really small. This one, even with the bed or with the toolbox, it's still pretty good size. I added this toolbox because I like the low profile look, and I like that you can still look out the back without being obstructed, and then down here at the bottom you can still put things underneath there, so you still get a very functional bed. My particular truck, again, was used. I bought it in 2005. This is an 02. It's 2018 now. It came with this mat. It's worked out fine. I don't have any complaints. I wish I would have done the spray-in. I should have done the spray-in. I think it's too late now. I'm not going to spend that kind of money on this. But if I could do it all over again, I would have done the spray-in. On the Tundra, it's already has the spray-in. One thing I like about it, and this is on an incline, so it looks a little higher than it is these trucks are really low on the back, so whenever it comes to loading and unloading, it's really easy. I know the Fords for this year and the Dodges especially tended to ride a little higher. Now all the new trucks are really high, but I really like that about this truck. The other thing is this one came with the tow package and the wiring harness already ready to go, which was nice. So there's another side view. Let's go inside and check it out. So I wanted to show you under the hood. This is, again, the Vortec 5.3. What I really liked about it, one of the selling features for me, remember I bought this used, I looked at the Fords, I didn't look at the Dodges. I had some experience with them through some friends, many friends actually, because they were really popular. They're really, really nice pickups. They had some quality issue. Remember the dashboard that was cracking? The powertrains were good, but everything around it was falling apart. One of the reasons I really like the Chevrolet Silverado is you got plenty of space here to work on. These engines are easy to find. They use them in a lot of different vehicles. Parts are easy to find. All that's really easy, but probably one of the things is changing the spark plugs. It was just so easy to work on. As you can see, everything's accessible, but that spark plug was probably what made the difference. Again, it wasn't everything, but it did help, and that is because at the time, if you remember, Ford had a lot of issues with I don't even know if they were spark plugs or whatever. They were seizing in the engine and they were breaking off, and then you'd have to get a mechanic with a special tool to get that out. I just didn't want to deal with that. So that was kind of what swung me towards the Silverado. I'll tell you, I do have a Chevrolet S10 and a Silverado. So I'm not going to say I'm a fanboy. It just happened to be that those two trucks were the ones that I really liked at the time. Because if you heard earlier in the video, I just bought a Tundra. So, you know, I'm not necessarily loyal to Chevrolet or any of the brands. I'm just trying to buy the best truck for me at the time for my situation. So this was the extended cab. Remember, they were pretty popular. I just skipped the seat back. They were pretty popular. Before the crew cabs really took off. This was around the time the crew cabs were taking off. So the extended cabs were really popular. You can lift the seat, by the way, and get some storage under there. In my case, I've got some subs there. But they're for kids, you're fine. Adults, short trips, sure. Long trips, no. What ended up happening is I've got a 9-year-old and a 5-year-old, and they're not getting any shorter. So, you know, when we were on road trips, it was, you know, they were not comfortable. And so that's why I had to go with the crew cab. But still, it did me well for a lot of years, and I'm not complaining. The interior, I like the tan interior. It looks pretty good. If I could do it all over again, I'd get the, I just got some Husky liners. Man, those are phenomenal. If I could do that again, I'd do it that way. I wanted to show you a couple of things that I did. The previous owner had this in. I've used this, just keep your phone in. I changed, as you can see, I changed out the sound system. The sound system that was in there was pretty bad, so I wanted to add an amp. This is not the best unit. It's actually a really cheap unit, but it allowed me to use an amplifier and do all those things. So that was one of the upgrades that I did. I know some of them had some additional features here. You know, I don't know what, I think this is for the garage door opener. Which one? This one. This is like, what is this? It's like to put, I don't know. You should have just put another sunglass holder instead of whatever the hell this is. With that being said, changed the radio. I also added a brake controller. I've got an electric fan, and I'll put links to this as well. You know about the tow mirrors. This center console, let me talk about this. This is for you to put your CDs, which I no longer use. It had a tape player. This is actually pretty comical. I just think this is, it's funny. I never used it. You do have plenty of power outlets here, which are phenomenal for charging your phone nowadays. An ashtray, I don't smoke, but you can put things in there, change and so on. This little center console is nice. It's really big. You can put your coins. I have some maps and so on. Also, when you have the air conditioning running and you put things in here, they're going to get cold. So it's almost like a little cooler or chiller, if you will. My only complaint is that I wish these weren't so easy to break. As you can see, one of them broke. So I wish that would have been done differently. Let me show you the back. Remember I told you I bought a Tundra? Really, it was between the Tundra and the Ford F-150. The Chevrolet was not even in the running. Among other reasons, I wanted a Chevrolet 6.2 Silverado. I just think those things are a beast. I couldn't find them, and so that really pushed me away. They had a bunch of 5.3s. I didn't want that again. I wanted a 6.2. And what really did it for me was the fact that they didn't have vents in the back. Like, what's up with that, Chevy? Like, everybody else has them. What, you know? You lost my business over that, I'll tell you that. Tundra has them. Has some cup holders here. Although I really wouldn't put anything here. If you've got adults, I'm sure they can take care of it. But with kids, man, they don't put them right and they spill. I think, you know, something that comes down here and a cup holder would have been better. With that being said, also it didn't come with a transmission cooler. So that's why I ended up adding, a transmission temperature gauge. That's why I added the transmission temperature gauge myself, and I upgraded the cooler. So now not only did I have the gauge, and I had the stock cooler, because remember this has the towing package, I also added another cooler. So instead of getting rid of the old cooler, I left it there and I added a second one. So now it goes out of the transmission, it cools off through the old cooler, leaves that one, and cools off again in another cooler, which is twice as big. So I really like that about it. Let me just tell you a couple of things about the truck. It runs great. The suspension is an old school truck. So you're not going to ride like a Cadillac now. Like trucks nowadays, they really spoil us. This thing drives like a truck, although for its time, it rode really well. Now, is it bad or anything? No, by no means is it bad. Is it going to be good for a daily driver? Sure. So if you're thinking about getting this, I really do recommend it. It's been a good truck. It's been a nice truck. And you should be able to pick one up, you know, relatively inexpensive, although trucks are holding their value like crazy right now. But again, my experience with it has been great. I'll tell you, if I were to go back in time and buy another one, the only thing I'd have done was probably buy a crew cab. But it's all good. So just overall in conclusion, I would tell you that I really like my Silverado. It's been working out great. You know, there are some pros and cons about it. Some things that could be better, some things that I really like about it. But overall, it worked out really well. Right now, the paint's starting to chip off, which I'm upset about. But that's another thing. But if I were to recommend it to someone, if someone were to ask me if they could, if they thought it was a good truck, I think so. And I'll say this in general for most trucks, as long as they're well taken care of. I'd like to think I take care of mine. I'm not exactly perfect on it, but I do recommend it. Just give it some TLC, change the oil all the time, take care of that transmission, and you should be good. So I give it a thumbs up. Again, for its age at 2002, it was a great pickup. By today's standards, you know, the bar is set much higher. But nonetheless, if I were to come across one, I wouldn't hesitate on buying one. If you have any questions or anything I can do to help you out, feel free to leave a comment below. Be sure to give it a like and subscribe. Hopefully this has helped you. If you have questions, hit me up. Thank you so much.